terror operatives in two separate areas of the Gaza Strip after they crossed the yellow line and threatened Israeli forces. At the same time, Israeli security analysts are warning that the ceasefire is allowing Hamas to return to power. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
In the south of Gaza, troops of the Kfir Brigade spotted a Palestinian Islamic Jihad operative on the Israeli side of the yellow line. The IDF says he posed an immediate threat, and Air Force strikes killed him within minutes. A short time later, surveillance teams identified another terrorist approaching troops in southern Gaza. Soldiers of the Gaza Division's Southern Brigade opened fire and eliminated him. And in the north, the Air Force struck and killed a Hamas operative who the IDF says was preparing an imminent sniper attack against Israeli troops, publishing videos of the strike. The IDF says all three killings were necessary to remove active threats to soldiers operating under the ceasefire framework. Israel is reportedly offering a way out for dozens of Hamas fighters still trapped in tunnels under eastern Rafah. According to the Hebrew media, a proposal was sent through mediators: surrender, disarm, move to Israeli prisons, and later be released to Hamas-controlled Gaza. So far, the gunmen are refusing, some emerging only to flee or attack IDF troops, and it's unclear at this point if Hamas leaders can even reach them. An Israeli official said, quote, "We gave them the option to live. They have not agreed." Meanwhile, a sharp warning is coming from Israel's defense establishment. Hamas is quietly rebuilding its rule in the Gaza Strip, much faster than many in the cabinet have realized. Senior defense officials told ministers that 13 of Gaza's 25 municipalities are back to full activity, once again run by Hamas. Hamas police are redeployed at checkpoints, infrastructure is being repaired, and security sources say the organization has re-established its control in the minds of Gazans. Reports also confirm that Hamas has resumed checkpoint operations and is back to collecting taxes from truck drivers, just as it did before the war. This rapid rebuilding is viewed differently in Jerusalem and in Washington, as the Trump administration is pushing ahead with the next phase of its 20-point plan for Gaza's day after, even as Israel warns that Hamas remains armed, entrenched, and deeply involved in local decision-making.
The IDF is continuing its broad counter-terror operation in northern Samaria. Troops detained dozens of suspects while searching for weapons in the Tubas area after detecting efforts by terror groups to establish a presence there. The raids are underway in several Palestinian towns and villages, including Tubas, Tamun, and Al-Aqaba. Palestinian media reports that a curfew was imposed in the area and several roads were blocked.
فرضوا السيطرة وأحكموا السيطرة على كل المناطق الجغرافية في محافظة طوباس، وتحديدا في طمون تم إخلاء عشرات المنازل ونكلوا بأصحابها وقاموا بعمل ثكنات عسكرية في كل البنايات المرتفعة في محافظة طوباس سواء طوباس أو طمون، وما زالت العملية مستمرة.
The operation is being carried out by the equivalent of 3 IDF brigades and includes forces from the Commando Brigade and Samaria and Menashe regional brigades alongside border police officers. Israeli Air Force helicopters were also deployed amid the operation, with the IDF reporting that strikes were carried out before the troops entered the towns to isolate the area and cordon it off. After the airstrikes, troops began searching dozens of buildings and interrogating suspects in the towns, searching for terror operatives and weapons. According to preliminary reports, the IDF and Shin Bet arrested or questioned 60 people. Among those detained and later released was Samir Basharat, the mayor of Tamun. The operation was expected to last several days, similar to other operations in Palestinian villages over the past 2 years. Unlike those raids, the IDF is not expected to order widespread civilian evacuations. And I'm joined now by the Director of Research at the Israel Defense and Security Forum, Or Issacharoff. Thanks for being with us. I'd like to touch on several fronts, but starting with Gaza. Our troops are deployed along the yellow line. There are almost daily local deadly clashes, especially in Rafah. At the same time, there are reports that Hamas is reasserting civil control to most of the towns and cities in Gaza. Is the ceasefire eroding our ability to strike forcefully, or are we resigned to the U.S. basically making the decisions on the ground, including the maintenance of the ceasefire?
Well, look, I don't think it's a binary choice between these two. The ceasefire terms are very clear. The 20-point plan is online, and anyone can see it. And it explicitly says that Gaza needs to be demilitarized and Hamas needs to give up control over Gaza. It is very clear. And the point of these international forces is exactly to do exactly that. I personally doubt their ability to do that, and that's why we estimated already in IDSF that at some form we'll have to go back to resume the fighting, given that no Turkish, Qatari, Azeri, or Indonesian force will actually force Hamas to demilitarize. And, when I listen to officials in both Israeli and American administrations, it seems like they understand that. And the question is, what conditions will bring both Israel and the U.S. to realize that in the Gaza Strip there will be no other choice but to finish off Hamas with the IDF military force. I'm assuming that they want to let it happen, as in they want these forces to prove that Hamas will not be demilitarized in any other way. And let's see what the next steps will be. But this is absolutely the objective, and I don't think it has been changed.
Not terribly optimistic. Well, let's turn to Lebanon. We just reached a year of ceasefire, and Hezbollah is trying to rebuild. There have been over 700 Israeli strikes into Lebanon during the past year, with Israel citing ceasefire violations all the way through. Hezbollah is reportedly planning to retaliate for last week's attack that killed the Hezbollah chief of staff. Are we expecting another major round of fighting?
We should always be prepared. I think the main lesson from October 7 and the ensuing multi-front war is that Israel has always to prepare for a maximalist scenario. As you know, in IDSF already alerted in 2022 in our strategic assessment against the option of a multi-front war, and very sadly, it started on October 7, 2023. I don't think Hezbollah understands the terms of the ceasefire. The ceasefire was very clear. If Hezbollah obtains weapons, it is considered a violation of a ceasefire. And if American sources are to be believed, Iran wired Hezbollah over $1 billion, and Hezbollah is feverishly attempting to rehabilitate its stockpile of weapons. And so Israel is free to act in Lebanon per the terms of the ceasefire, and the Lebanese government decided to disarm Hezbollah. So these are terms that are not up to discussion. And Hezbollah is a terrorist group funded by Iran. It is its interest to keep on fighting and killing Israeli civilians. And it is to be seen in what way will Israel and the international community arrive at the conclusion that Hezbollah has to be finished off once and for all. They got a very severe blow last year and during the war in Lebanon, and I sure hope we won't have to do it, and that the Lebanese government and the Lebanese people will understand that they have to really spew out this terrorist group that has been demolishing Lebanon for decades.
So many fronts in so little time. Well, Israel has launched yet another anti-terror operation, this time in Samaria. There are sweeps and curfews and many arrests. What is Israel trying to accomplish in Judea and Samaria? Is there any end game in sight? Are we at least eyeing some kind of a potential ceasefire for Judea and Samaria as well?
Well, I wouldn't be that optimistic over there, but I would say that Israel has, in my view, yet to decide. And that's unfortunate, because what we expect is a clear endgame to Judea and Samaria as well. As you know, when Israel doesn't decide, it leaves a vacuum that lets other international forces slip in. And we saw it in the September recognition of a Palestinian state by some European nations and nations around the world. Israel right now with this operation is attempting to really arrest and forestall all of these planned terrorist attacks against Israeli civilians. Some of them are Iranian backed and Iranian directed, and some of them are not. But Israel's endgame in Judea and Samaria is yet to be revealed. We offered the Emirates plan as one solution to disperse and divide the power of the Palestinian Authority between local governors and to enact the Israeli law on the entire rest of the territory. And that's something that in the statehood level needs to be decided. And I'm assuming that because of all the attention the Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, and other fronts were getting, Judea and Samaria was kept in low flame until such time that we have to deal with it. My strong suggestion is to deal with it sooner than later and come sooner than the next unforeseen crisis, because the situation in Judea and Samaria is not stable, and we absolutely have to change fundamentally the political architecture of that region.
Ori Sakharov, so many fronts in so little time. Thank you so much for being with us today at ILTV.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be with you.
As we move forward here at ILTV, we're not just delivering the news, we're carrying out a mission. Every day we work to strengthen Israel's global voice and stand firm for Zionism with factual pro-Israel reporting. By subscribing to our app, you're joining us as a partner in this mission, and you'll get access to our new 24/7 channel with live broadcasts at the top of every hour. And today we're having a special Black Friday discount of 30%. Scan the QR code and use code BLACK30 to subscribe now. Two National Guardsmen are in critical condition after being shot near the White House in Washington, D.C., in what police are calling a targeted ambush. President Trump has called it an act of terrorism and ordered beefed-up security in the U.S. Capitol. ILTV's Devil Klein has more.
Authorities say the shooter, a 29-year-old Afghan national, opened fire at close range. Other guardsmen immediately responded, subdued the suspect, who was hospitalized with serious wounds, and took him into custody. The shooting occurred only blocks away from the White House, with shell casings being recovered and camera footage under review. The White House complex was briefly on lockdown. Flights to nearby Reagan National Airport have halted, and President Trump called it an act of terror. He then ordered 500 additional National Guard troops to Washington in response. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar posted that he is shocked and deeply saddened, expressing solidarity with the United States, the American people, and President Trump. Investigations continue, with FBI and Homeland Security working to determine motives and whether the attack is connected to terrorism.
And joining us now is reporter Devo Klein with developments in the story. Devo, we now have the identity of the shooter.
That's right, absolutely. So the shooter has been identified. He is 29-year-old, and I hope I don't butcher this, but Rahmanullah Lakhanwal. He is of Afghani descent. And we know from the scene that he was working alone. As we mentioned, he shot two National Guards, and they are critically injured from this shooting. But we now have more information from the CIA director himself. Now, he moved to the United States in September of 2021. As part of a special, Biden-era immigration program. But this was no ordinary program. It was a very special plan.
From the Taliban, the refugees from the Taliban
That's
attack.
right. Yeah. But it was a very special plan that was made just for people who have worked with U.S.-backed organizations. He was already recognized by the United States, and so he was given basically a grant to come and enter the United States in September of 2021, and he is now the shooter of this, horrible and violent shooting.
Do we know anything at all about motivation yet?
So we don't know yet. We are waiting for confirmation and for more information from the CIA and, of course, their directors. But once we do know, we will definitely follow up. We don't know of any terror motives at this point.
All right, we'll keep a close eye on the story.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Devo.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
The Mossad has thwarted yet another Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps plot targeting Israeli interests abroad, this time in Africa. According to media reports, Mossad, working closely with African security forces, dismantled the IRGC-led plan aimed at Israeli diplomatic sites in Senegal and Uganda. The plot involved a network of Pakistani and Bangladeshi agents operating from Iran, as well as local African recruits. They were tasked with surveillance, buying Western weapons, and preparing attacks for payment. Authorities say the cell was caught before any damage could be done. Mossad also exposed senior IRGC officer Sadar Amar as a key mastermind behind multiple plots targeting Jews and Israelis worldwide between 2024 and 25. Dozens of attacks were foiled thanks to coordinated intelligence actions. Experts say these cases show Iran continues to invest heavily in global terror operations, but Mossad and international partners have proven they can disrupt these plots early, maintaining Israeli security even far from home. In another blow to the IRGC, Australia will now list them as a state sponsor of terrorism for carrying out 2024 anti-Semitic attacks. Foreign Minister Penny Wong announced the designation after an intelligence assessment concluded that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps orchestrated attacks targeting Australia's Jewish community. In August, Canberra accused Iran of directing 2 anti-Semitic arson attacks in Sydney and Melbourne last year. On Tuesday, Australia expelled Tehran's ambassador, giving him 7 days to leave, the country's first such diplomatic expulsion since World War II. Well, Israel loses billions of shekels every year, not to war or infrastructure, but to food being thrown away. A new report shows the country has lost more than $57 billion in food value over the last decade alone. Our correspondent, India Naftali, reports on the scale of the crisis and the solutions already underway.
Israelis threw away billions of dollars of food in the last decade. This is especially concerning considering how many families in the country suffer with food insecurity. The new food waste report shows how much money and nutritious food is being lost every single year. But it also shows that the tools to fix the problem already exist. The 10th annual Food Waste and Rescue Report from BDO and Lekit Israel, the country's national food bank, shows Israel has lost about $57 billion in food value over the past decade. The report, prepared with the Ministries of Environmental Protection and Health, warns that food loss remains one of Israel's most expensive problems. However, this year's report does show a positive trend. Israeli consumers are wasting less food, a drop of 13.3% per person. But with population growth and rising living costs, the total volume of waste remains very high. Food waste affects Israel in 3 major ways. In 2024 alone, Israel threw away 2.6 million tons of food, worth about $7 billion. That is nearly 40% of the country's entire food production and equal to 1.3% of the national GDP. Socially, it makes life hard for families who already struggle to afford healthy food. The average Israeli family discarded about $2,915 worth of food last year. Meanwhile, 1.5 million Israelis face food insecurity. Health costs associated with food insecurity are even higher, reaching about $1.57 billion a year. These costs include chronic illnesses such as cardiovascular disease, obesity, and other conditions linked to poor nutrition. And environmentally, food waste uses water, land, and energy that cannot be recovered, costing Israel about $1.14 billion annually in lost resources and pollution. But Israel has built a strong foundation for change to reduce food waste in places like restaurants, army bases, farms, or at home. These solutions include expanding food rescue operations in farms and supermarkets, using the Food Donation Act to increase safe donations, and implementing the national plan that sets targets for cutting waste and redirecting surplus food to families in need. Lekit has also been working with government ministries, pushing for new laws and helping shape the national plan. They say the next step is to keep the momentum going so these plans turn into real, large-scale change, because the level of waste is still far too high. These plans are expected to save billions and support lower and middle-income families. Lekit says Israel already has a scalable system for food rescue. What it needs now, they say, is funding, coordination, and national commitment. Their goal is in Israel, where food isn't thrown away while families go hungry.
And after Israeli strikes in Beirut killed Hezbollah's chief of staff last week, analysts said the group was under pressure to respond. They did not. Now observers say the escalation in Lebanon is unlikely, at least until after the visit of Pope Leo XIV, scheduled to begin on Sunday. The Pope headed to Turkey for the first stop of his Middle East trip. He is due to arrive in Lebanon on Sunday. The papal visit puts diplomatic and security pressure on all parties, including Hezbollah. The Pope has called for peace and urged restraint following the strike. Yet pressure from Hezbollah's base and internal leadership means retaliation remains a possibility. Security analysts say Hezbollah feels forced to respond to restore deterrence after what it sees as a major Israeli escalation. There is no public indication that they have decided to wait for the papal visit. The Pope's trip is meant to be a pilgrimage of hope and harmony, aiming to bring a message of peace, unity, and solidarity, especially to a Lebanon battered by economic collapse, political instability, war, and the lingering trauma of the 2020 port explosion. An outdoor mass will be held at the site. For Lebanon, the visit is symbolic, a message of hope to Christian communities, encouragement to preserve the country's new government, and a call for global attention to Lebanon's economic and humanitarian crisis. Israel says it will continue to act against any ceasefire violations in Lebanon and will act regardless of diplomatic pressure. Well, Israel's food scene just scored a major international win. Despite years of war and demand to boycott Israeli businesses, 8 Israeli restaurants have been named among the top 1,000 in the world by the French restaurant guide La Liste. It's one of the most respected global gastronomic rankings. Our correspondent India Naftali shows us why Israel's culinary scene continues to thrive against all odds.
I'm standing here outside OCD Tel Aviv that was recently ranked as one of the top 1,000 restaurants in the entire world. And for such a small country like Israel, to secure 8 out of the 1,000 best restaurants in the world is quite impressive. The war has taken a toll on Israel's restaurant industry, but daily life continues. In the evenings, the streets are still busy and restaurants are full.
Israel's food scene has always been built on a blend of North African, Middle Eastern, and Mediterranean flavors. It's a reflection of Jewish diaspora traditions and a cutting-edge fusion movement that has taken hold of the Israeli restaurant industry in the recent years. Now, that mix is earning global praise. Despite years of war that shook the restaurant industry, 8 Israeli restaurants have been ranked among La Liste's top 1,000 restaurants in the world. 7 are in Tel Aviv, and 1 is in Jerusalem. Leading Israel's lineup is OCD Tel Aviv. It's a tasting menu restaurant by chef Raz Rahav, which received the highest ranking in the country. Next is Mashia, known for its fresh local ingredients and modern use of spices. Right behind it is a restaurant called Elena at the Norman Hotel, run by chefs Daniel Zur and Omer Shadmi. Other Tel Aviv favorites also made the list: Manta Ray, a beachfront seafood classic; Claro, a farm-to-table restaurant; and Pastel, led by chef Gal Ben Moshe at the Tel Aviv Museum of Art. Jerusalem also claimed a spot with Chakra, a 25-year fixture of the capital's food scene. The final Israeli entry is Popina in the Neve Tzedek neighborhood in Tel Aviv, where the menu is built around 5 cooking techniques, from curing to slow cooking. For Israel, this year's recognition means something more. It is a reminder that even in difficult times, its culinary talent continues to innovate, inspire, and draw the world's attention.
Amid the continuing ceasefire, the IDF said